Have you ever been trying to add conditional formatting to a project but didn't know how to do it to an entire row? So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to do just that, including how to format by number, by date, and even on multiple conditions. All right, so let's jump right in. So first of all, let's start with just a very basic conditional formatting before we apply the row. So format, conditional formatting. Let's just do something where greater than 1,000. And so you can see that works just like that. So we can adjust this maybe to E, and then we're going to do a text one. So we can say text is exactly sold. And so that's how you can do a single cell formatting. But let's go back to D, and then we're going to change to custom formula is under format rules. And so now we can do something like this. And we could do D2 is greater than 1,000. And so you can see that same thing works. Now, this logic is important because this is the foundation we're going to use for doing rows. So we can actually just adjust this apply to range. And so let's do it to the whole range, so A2 through I. Or you can do a selection here as well and select the data range. And then just make sure you drop that end reference. And so currently it isn't working right. But what we need to do, this is the key, is adding a $sign before that column. So $sign D in this case, because we're looking in D, and then we can do our logic. So now we're highlighting the entire row wherever the deal amount is greater than 1,000. All right, and so now let's adjust over. Let's go to our status. And so I'm just going to change this to E. And then we're going to change this to a text. So then we do another equals, and we can do something like lead. And then I'm just going to pick a color, maybe blue, and then we can click done. And that's how you save a conditional formatting rule. Now, if you close out of this and you want to come back and edit your conditional formatting rules, you can go to format, conditional formatting, and then you can see those rules. So we could add another one. We can just copy one if we want, or we can create one from scratch. Now, if you're applying to the same range, it's usually faster just to open one up. And what you do is come down to the bottom and click add another rule. And then it copies the apply to range and the custom formula and the color. And so then you can just adjust. And so let's change this to sold. And we'll change this to green. And then let's copy this again. And we'll change this one to lost. And then maybe we'll change this one to maybe gray. Maybe a little darker gray, something like that. There we go. And so there we go. Now we have those all conditionally formatted. Now, what if you need to delete a conditional formatting rule? So I'm Xing out just so I can show you again how to get to this. So format, conditional formatting. And then to delete one, when you get to this list of rules, you can just hit delete the remove rule button on the right, and then it removes it. All right, so next let's look at how the order of these matters. So if you go to the left-hand side where these 4 dots are, you can click and drag the rules. So you can drag them to the top. If we add another one here, and we call this one lost again, and add our gray one, you can see that now we have 3 and we can drag them around. So with text like this where it's exact match, it doesn't make a difference. So what I'm going to show you is how it makes a difference with numbers. And so I'm going to change this back to D, and then let's just do greater than 600. And then I'm going to change this one actually to blue. And then let's get rid of these two. And I'm going to start with this one as my base. So anything greater than 600 is blue. And then let's add another rule. And then let's do 1,000. And I'm going to change this to green. And so right now, nothing is green, even though technically this one is true. So the reason why is because conditional formatting applies rules from top down. And so if we drag this up, now this one's being applied. So everything over 1,000 is now green. Then after that is done, then it goes to this one. So then basically what this ends up being is anything over 600 and less than 1,000 because this one's up top. But we don't have to specify that. Now, there are cases where you do need to put multiple conditions in a certain cell. And so let's look at that now. So we have this greater than 600, but what if we want also less than 1,000? So what we can do then is use a AND function, and then I'm going to select and copy our existing one, do comma, paste, and close. Now, so far this is just the same thing twice, but what I'm going to do here then is less than 1,000. And so now you can see that if it's greater than 600 and less than 1,000, now it is highlighting. So that's how you can do that with numbers. Now, what if we want to do something with follow-up and VIP? So let's go ahead and change these. So I'm going to do H and then 2. Now, at this point, I'm going to take a quick second to show you the apply to range. The start row number needs to be the same as here. Now, you can actually use an offset to your advantage, but for the most part, what you're looking at is when you do the apply to range, whatever you start with, the row number, when you put these formulas in, you want to use the same starting one. And then basically what it does is it goes row by row through that and checks. And so like, let's just do this. Let's do H2 equals yes. And so what it's doing is it's checking each row in H, and if it's yes, let's do the apply to as yes as well. And so let me just show you what happens if we do an offset. So H3, now you can see it's going down a row. So if your conditional formatting rule is applied and the wrong row is being highlighted, it's probably because the row number here and here do not match. All right, so let's go ahead and do if I2 is true. And what this is going to do is only if follow-up is yes and VIP is checked, then we will apply this. And maybe we'll add something like purple. We can even change the other conditional formatting here as well. You can do bold, you can do underline, you can do italics. You can see how you can do those conditional formatting. All right, and then to wrap this up, the only thing we haven't covered is how to conditionally format by date. And so let me come back here. Now, these ones only work when you're using a single column. So we need to come back down here to custom formula, and then we could do something like A2 is, let's say, less than today. And so these are all less than today. Today is currently the 4th, and so you can see once we get to the 4th, then it's no longer highlighted. So we can flip this around and do greater than today. And you can see now it's flipped. We could do where it's equal to today, and it only highlights today's rows. And then you could do even things like, let's say, less than today plus 3, and then that's going to include up till 3 days in the future. And then you could use this in and do that as well. So one thing with these that sometimes gets confusing, you could do a helper column and test out these formulas and then drag it down to kind of test out to see how to make that work. Or you could always test in here as well, and then you can see the conditional formatting apply as you go. Now, one thing to keep in mind is if you're building something like this, it's a little more complicated. Make sure you don't have another rule that's interfering and then messing you up because you think it's not working, but it's actually just being overridden by another rule on top. All right, so that is it for today's video. Make sure to like and subscribe if this is helpful for you, and check the other videos on our channel for more tutorials on both Google Sheets and AppScript. And as always, have a great day.